finance or to rebuild or to like maintain different kinds of endangered heritage?
Yeah, well, every year we ask for suggestions for nominations, and we typically get, well, it depends, between 15 and 25 nominations per year, let's say. And then we select out of them a short list, which so far was limited to 14 and sometimes was slightly less. And from the 14, we select the 7, which then really we try to do something. And for those who are only shortlisted but not kept within the 7, we tell them, well, you can come back next year. Not being taken once this year does not mean you are never taken in your life, so you can try again next year. And indeed, we have a number of cases which only are selected the second year. Why not? And then the question is how to deal with it. Of course, it will be a bit different from country to country. We have Europa Nostra is a group of an NGO which contains a lot of members, 150 or so members in the 30 countries. So from that point of view, already the nomination will often be from one of our members. And so we will work with them. We'll have to see then. Depending upon it, it will be easier or more difficult. Sometimes also you go into border issues. If I mention to you Armenia and Azerbaijan, you will have sometimes issues of projects being very much at the border, etc. The question then is a technical one. How do you do it? Who can do it? Well, you have to do that on the ground. It's not by sending people. You can send in a couple of experts from elsewhere in Europe to make a report, to tell you, well, this would be, or to make an estimate, the cost could be this or that, if that is needed. But it has to be done locally. It's not by sending in people from 2,000 kilometers away that you will do the corresponding works. And for the funding, that is can be more variable. You can have various sources. First of all, you need to know more or less what is the cost. Second, it can be, in the extreme case, you may have a low cost. Okay, fine, all the better. In one case, we even saved money because a bridge was to be replaced, and the historic bridge was to be replaced by a new one. We convinced them that it was not necessary and to better keep the old one. The old one was cheaper than building a new one. Okay, that's the rare case. Normally, it's the opposite. But you will then have, in terms of funding, you can have local funding, you can have national funding, you can have international funding. Part of it could be EU funding, depending upon the case. Part of it can also be some kind of foundation, which might be doing it, like the synagogue in Siena was partly financed by Jewish foundations. Fine enough. So it really depends on it. And of course, that is an important question, how to fund it, how much is it, where do you get the money from? And that is a topic which can take some time. I give you a somewhat extreme case. We have one project in Istanbul on an island in front of the city. It's the second largest wooden building in the world. That is a certain size, as you can imagine. Yes. 120 years old. In a bad state, so if something is to be done, it has to be done in the next few years, otherwise it simply will fall into ruins. The cost is anything between 50 and 100 million.
Wow.
That is, in case of doubt, the most expensive one we have so far. How will we find the funding is to be seen, and I do not say we will be successful. I'm not saying absolutely excluded. If you take also in a country like yours, if you build 4 or 5 kilometers of motorway and close to Taipei, it's about the same cost. So in other words, can be done, but to be seen.
Yes.
Okay, it's the extreme case. Most of our projects will rather be a few 100,000, 2 or 3 million that can be found. 50 million is a different type of animal, but not to be excluded. And it really depends on the project of which cost we're talking.
Okay, wow, impressive. I've also been to Europe like 2 years ago. I went to Italy to be specific, and I also like went to all kinds of different spots, and I tried to always go like deeply into the like local places and to try something or like other than those like big tourist spots. And one of the most fascinating thing is about the religious culture as well, because
It's
like
about
the religious culture, like you can see like churches that like also like been around there for like 200 or even 300 years ago. But it's also very interesting how they're like how poorly preserves a lot of them are. So it is like a very important topic to us and
okay.
to
No, and you will have churches which are still popular and being used, which probably also means that they are better kept up. Others, you have more churches than you need in a way. So the question also is not only the first question is what can you do? And then how can you find the corresponding funding? Can be done, but it will depend on the cases, no doubt. The same question in a way, you have it even more when we talk, let's say, fortresses. A fortress, a castle, certainly is not needed anymore as a castle.
Yes.
You can use it as a museum, good idea, but how many museums can you really have? If not, what else can you do? You can have some castles might be used as a hotel. It's a possibility.
Yes.
Some castles can be used as a shopping thing. The question then is, how do you do it to keep it, well, not to look too bad, etc. So it really depends on the case, and we have a lot of other historic buildings. We get more and more this year. Among our new 7 most endangered, we have 3 industrial sites, 4 indeed, which again is a question. What do you do? We have one industrial site 20 kilometers from where I'm living here, which is a building which is more than 1 hectare large, so quite a large building, which was used in a steel factory, and where the question is what can now be done. Again, there the cost will also be the 50 to 100 million, I would guess. Okay, Luxembourg can more easily finance perhaps that, but again, the first question is, do you, owner, want to do it? How can
Yes.
we convince you? And do you know, or can we kind of discuss with you what you can do with it? Because you do not only want to have buildings standing nicely done and then being empty without being used. That cannot be the idea. A topic which we also have, of course, in Taiwan, in similar ways. I've seen a number of things in your country also where
Yes.
you say, well, those are historic buildings, and yes, good, let's keep them. And I would guess there are others which I haven't seen and which are not in such a good state.
True. Again, for Taipei alone, we have our government is also working very, very hard on cultural transformation. Like there is lots of like heritage that is also not in use anymore. So that's why like our what we are our project is also one of the like products of how government is trying to translate those things that are not in use anymore to something like much more how do I say much more valuable and also like for the peoples and for our citizens.
No,
Okay, so
no.
we are moving to the next question. Oh,
The
okay.
other thing you have, I think, to see is I'm saying we are doing that annually. So every year you have 7 projects, but that does not mean that by the end of the year this will be finished. Far from that. Your projects will take some time. In the extreme case, we just finished one which started in 2013, which was
Oh,
finished a
wow,
few months ago.
that's
That's the
so long.
extreme case, but it typically will take 2, 3, 4, 5 years. That will not be that rare. So also that means as a group, like in your case, you would have not only the projects of 1 year to deal with, but
Mm-hmm.
the ones of 3 or 4 years, because simply it will take some time until it all has been done.
Okay, that's interesting. Wow, how much people is in your own organization?
Well, if I take the ones working in Europa Nostra, Europa Nostra works together with the European Investment Bank Institute. So we have there some 30, 40 people being active as experts and doing the reports, which you partly have seen,
Mm-hmm.
of which you have like 15 people like me. Oh, hello, somebody new is coming, joining. Hello. Uh, so you have like 15 people like me having worked at the European Investment Bank in their active time, and in the meantime have retired and can use their know-how in the context of the 7 most endangered. Then you will have another 15, 20 people who are active members of Europa Nostra, and as such are more typically would be, let's say, historians, architects, more from that side. The ones from the bank would be more engineers, experts in finances, etc. And you bring them together, and that gives a nice combination. But
Yes.
as I said before, the project is largely done locally. I
Mm-hmm.
normally say you make or break a project locally, in the sense either you have the nominator needs to get in touch with the owner also, which sometimes can be a little bit difficult at the beginning, but that is important that the owner also become involved, obviously.
Yes.
And you need to convince the locals that something is to be done. Something is to be done financially if the funding is local, but
Mm-hmm.
also something is to be done muscles wise. It's not by sending in people from Luxembourg or Belgium or whatever that you will do a project in a country 2,000 kilometers away. It has to be done locally. So from that point of view, the question, how many are we, is a nice question, but it really gets an answer depending upon to do what. If you look at all the people working on some of these projects, you go into the hundreds, of course. But it will
So
not be the hundreds all the time the same, but you will have one project in one area, uh, another one 500 kilometers away somewhere else.
oh, so but still the whole organization is like very well rounded. In my opinion, it's like we can
No,
see all
it is
kinds
a
of.
question you will have to find solutions case by case.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, are you already involved in specific cases where you have found projects in Taiwan where you say something should be done?
For our project alone, so practically we will have to design some kind of programs to like advocate the Xinjiang's culture, like just for not just for the whole district alone, but to almost like how do I say citywide. But it
Sorry?
really depends on like how do we do it, and how also um, like also ingesting different insights from every NPO and to try to understand how do we practically do it.
Yeah. Well,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
it's I have the feeling you have some from what I read from your papers,
Mm-hmm.
you are probably less in the specific rebuilding, but you are more trying to make the projects being used, being people more conscious of it, which is an interesting way of doing. And I could imagine we might be able to learn something from you in that respect,
Yes.
because one nice thing is you have an old building, you create something in order to keep it, fine, but then you need to know what to do with it. You are rather going the other way, and you start by saying, we first want to know what to do, and then we'll try to get people more interested, etc., which is a nice way. It
Mm-hmm.
also is a way which is probably more, you are all students still.
Yes, we are all students.
Yeah. So it's more, you're not engineers who can say, oh, well, if that roof is to be done, that is 150,000 euros. You will not know that at this stage. So
Yeah.
it's a different way of, but both are needed, huh?
Yeah,
Depending
but
on the
still we
circumstances,
are.
one or the
What we
other.
mostly can do is like to launch different like market campaigns, or to try to make the whole place more lively, like but like in under a very low cost. But still, we still can like the government will provide us some like subsidies if the whole project goes well. But so for the current states, we will have to go through different NPOs and different interviews to really get a point like what we should practically do, or what can we do. So like this is what is going on for us now.
Yeah. What you can, okay, funding does not seem to be your main issue, but you
Mhm.
could otherwise, like, have your members yourself pay a certain amount per year, everybody. Uh, and then, of course, that gives you a possibility. You can also sell your membership to
Mhm.
shops, to other institutions, etc. That is what is done by Europa Nostra. I'm paying myself, I don't know, 110 euros a year. But if I were an NGO, I would pay a bit more. So, I mean, you can have a number of people who might pay something. Uh, Offices of architects might be wanting to join. I don't know, depending. But you could have some members which you could say, okay, it's great that you are interested, that you discuss with us, but please also help a little bit in order to do certain things which might be needed to be done. So that's
Mhm.
a question which you could consider. Plus, don't forget, you are students now. You will be working in
Yeah.
a couple of years or 3 years. You will earn money then. You might want to continue to be interested in the same things. You
Yes.
could then also pay some membership, which you could differentiate for students, a lower price, for professionals, a higher one. Well, whatever comes to your mind in that respect.
Yes. Thank you for your suggestions. We'll move on to the next questions, but I do believe you have already provided a lot of insights, so I think we'll skip through a few questions. So okay, so this one is my personal like
What
question.
should youth-led teams pay attention to when presenting heritage to visitors or wider audience, especially to avoid oversimplification? Yeah,
The biggest difficulties that we are going through now.
Yeah, give me an example. Where would that be an issue? Give me an example so that I better understand where you have an issue with it.
Let me think. I would say like mostly it's because of for the younger generation in Taiwan, we always like sticks into internet because like we are a very, very how to say internet oriented generation, and especially for Taiwanese. So we don't really pay like a lot of interest or let's say attention to local culture, let alone Xinjiang temple culture. We all always wanted to like go abroad, like go to Japan, go to France, go to other places, but we seldom like really pay attention to our own culture. So, what is I would our biggest curiosity is how do we grab their attention, like to when we are presenting those heritage to like visitors or like even wider audience, like even like more than just younger generation.
Yeah. Well, okay. What can you do? Well, first of all, you can of course go through the period. I mean, if you have a building which is 200 or 300 years old, that's something you can go through. You can also, and through the various phases, it could also be different use during those periods. Not everything is always used the same way. You may have, if you take, for instance, take an old mill, it may have been used as a mill 100 years or 200 years ago. It may be used differently nowadays. So that is something to also perhaps to explain how the use has changed. Another thing is you will have, you may have had different uses because of history. If I take your population has definitely changed after 1945, so there may have been differences in use before and after. I remember having seen in Taroko Canyon, you have the original population that, okay, that will not be in Taipei, but again, you can of course show how it has changed over time. You have been at a certain moment influenced by, or you have been occupied by the Portuguese at a certain moment. Again, how much of that is available? Uh, you were called Ilha Formosa. Formosa is Portuguese and means beautiful island.
Yes.
Okay, uh, different things which can be, so you can, to people, even if people are mainly going through computer things, but still seeing things, at being able to touch them, to see them, to work with them can make a difference. And I could imagine that will be interesting to do. The next question then is indeed, you have an old building. How can you use it in a way to make it more interesting for people? That is the question of not only rebuilding the walls, but doing something which tells people more, gives them more an idea what could be done with it, how they could use it, how others can use it. So it really is a question to to show the various aspects which a building, a monument, can have had and can have fulfilled over time and can fulfill now. And again, the question is also, if you don't have a good use for it now, what use could be imagined? And you will often have old buildings which can have quite some interesting use to be done. So you will have to also think of it, perhaps what would be 10 years from now, what what ideas come up? What would you perhaps like to use it 10 years from now?
Mm-hmm.
What could be the locals? What could the locals do with it? Because ultimately, you rely probably heavily on the locals
Yes.
for buildings, for monuments to be kept up. Now, what can they do with it? How can they be kept interested in these monuments? I don't know. If nothing else, if it's an interesting building, could it be an interesting restaurant? Could it be a museum? But museum is nice if people go and see it. If you have five museums, one next to the other, the probability is less large that they will be seen all the five. So you'll have to see a little bit what can be done where.
Mm-hmm.
Could it become what kind of shop could be in it? For instance, if you have I don't know, a shop with art
Mm-hmm.
objects, that in a historic building can be quite an interesting thing,
Yes, true.
etc. There's a number of things you can imagine. You have in your area. I remember the center of Yuming, which must not be that far from you, which is Yuming is a well-known Taiwanese artist known all over the world. As one of his statues here in Luxembourg City, and it's interesting to see how the entire thing has been developed. No, you seem not to know what I'm talking about. No.
I'm not sure about Yumi.
All right.
Yeah. I have to find something which is more Chinese than French, but here you go. The
Yumi.
Blooming Museum. Opla, sorry.
What's that?